Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday's chat show, the Writing Community Chat Show Friday night. It's fantastic to be here. It's fantastic to see Mr. Hooley next to me. And again, you guys on the chat already, you're flying in there. So fantastic. Thank you so much. We've got a great show coming up for you, so stick around. We've got some giveaways to do. There's just a last second addition to our Twitter followers to actually make that happen with a second spare, literally. It's incredible. So if you've been following us on Twitter, you know what the score is with that, and we will be buying a book on the show. So fantastic. And we've got a great guest on, and in the second half of the show, of course, send your questions in, and we've got a game to see if Mr. Hooley can beat the guest this week. And who knows? Maybe he'll lose again.
It's rigged, I tell you.
It's not rigged. But, you know, it's nice when the guest wins, because they're the guest and they should win.
Yeah. It's not nice when the guest wins. I'm out to win every time.
Well, you know. Anyway, how are you? You've been decorating all week, and I've had a taste of that myself. Been painting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have to say on that, to be honest. I think that says it all.
It is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
they say moving house, getting a new job, and having a new baby are the three worst things, the most stressful things that you can do. And I've done them all in the space of a year.
It's less than that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, 9 months? Killer. So next season, I'll be grey, but I'm sure I'll rock that silver fox.
Yeah. Linda on the chat, Hooley looks pooped. He does indeed.
Yes, thank you.
Fill him with confidence. Go on.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. And it is great to see you back. And I missed you on Wednesday. We had a great show nonetheless. I managed to hold a conversation for a full hour, which is fantastic. So,
was that with yourself?
Yep, pretty much. So let's get on with the show and start off with the BA Token book promotion, which is, again, if you're new to the show, this is something you can do if you go to our website, thewritingcommunitychatshow.com. You can do this and pay for this service. It's very cheap, very, very cheap when it comes to advertising. We will talk about your book for this on this show. It'll be highlighted throughout the show and on the podcast, and all of that stuff is fantastic, so get involved. But I'm doing a special one tonight. Because
nice.
Well, what happened is our Twitter group the followers on this show has become a family. It really has, and we're all indie authors, most of us on this show and in the family. So we really connect with those and the struggles that are involved. And someone reached out on our group and said they've struggled to sell books recently. Can we help out? Not us directly, but the family. And so I've decided to give them a free sponsor this week, and that person is Connor. Connor is a fellow podcaster. He's a big friend of the show. And his book, The Longest Night, a supernatural thriller, it's got 4.5 stars out of 5. Sorry, 4 stars out of 5 after 22 ratings. It's available as a paperback and as Kindle. Please do check that out. It says, a crazed megalomaniac wishes to bring about the end of the world as we know it, and only 3 strangers can stop him, and they don't even know it yet, which is a bit of a tricky thing to do, right? And a review said, brilliant book full of unexpected twists and turns, an absolute page turner. Read it in 2 days. Perfect blend of history and the supernatural, made even better by the setting in Ireland. So it really does sound fantastic. And thank you, not thank you for Connor for sponsoring us, because he hasn't, but thank you for reaching out and, you know, admitting those struggles, because we all go through them, and it's something that, you know, the community loves to help with. So thank you. And Chris, up there. See it? Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's a nice cover. I like it. I saw a tweet the other day that said the indie community is smashing covers at the minute, and I have to agree. A lot of the covers that I'm seeing, especially Animosi Cat's latest cover, oof, that is a cover.
Well, on top of that, we have the Twitter that was going around that when we got to 6k followers, and I accidentally said 7, we'll buy a book. So we bought a book of 6k followers, but we decided that every 50 followers on the show now, up to 7,000, we will buy an ebook for. And as the show started, we hit our 50th follower since Wednesday. So hold on till halfway through the show, and we will reveal who that person is and who the winning book is. But let's get on with the show and get our guest on, because this is what we're here for. And yeah, Chris has got the book there. So tonight we welcome the author of The Art of Death, proudly shown by Mr. Hooley there. One reviewer said, The Art of Death is layered, twisty, and deliciously dark. So that certainly fits in with our audience. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Fennell. Hello to you.
Hi guys. Good evening.
It's fun. Well, thank you for joining us, first of all. It's fantastic to see you. And what a lovely background you have there. It's certainly better than this mess I've got going on.
I was quite admiring your afro-looking, bearded, ZZ Top person.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's our latest canvas that I've got to try and make it look a little prettier in here, because I did have a green screen, but it was also a little bit ropey at times.
I'm still in a prison cell, because wherever I go and do this podcast, whether it be my house or somebody else's, I always find a grey wall. So I might as well be in a prison cell. I'm
pretty sure that's what Ian Rankin said. You looked like you were sat in a prison cell.
He did. That's why I made that little nod, little reference.
Indeed. So, David, we discovered that you are hailing from Brighton at the moment. So it's fantastic to have you. Yep.
Broadcasting from Brighton.
For our American listeners, that's in the south of England, on the coast. But we're here to talk about books and how you're getting on and all of those sort of things. So the very first thing I want to do is, because we often talk and rant on, but I want to jump into that book, The Art of Death, if Chris Hooley wants to show it off again. For anyone who's watching and might not know about that book, can you have a little description for us, please?
Sure. It's a serial killer thriller, and it's essentially the story of a newly promoted detective inspector, Chris Archer, who's moved from the NCA, National Crime or National Crime Agency, to the Met. And on her first day, she takes over an investigation that no one else wants, and that's the installation of 3 art pieces that are in Trafalgar Square. And they're getting a lot of calls from the guy who's organizing the art installation as part of the Lord Mayor show, and he thinks they're obscene, and no one wants to deal with it because he sounds like a high maintenance guy. So she goes and deals with it, taking along her DS, Harry Quinn. And they discover that inside these 3 water cabinets filled with formaldehyde are the corpses of 3 homeless men. So this artist, who is essentially he's a bit like a malevolent Damien Hirst meets Banksy. He calls himself anonymous, but rather than an A, he uses an @ sign, and he promises more art to come, meaning obviously more corpses. So my DI and her caustic Belfast born DS or go on a race against the clock to try and stop him.
It's fascinating. It sounds very exciting, and all the reviews seem to back that up. So let's rewind a little bit, because that is a great story, but it's not your first. So let's dive back in time and find out why you started writing in the first place, and then we can get on to sort of the books that led up to this book.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry. So I already have 2 books that are out, 2 young adult books. And I wrote those a few years back. I've been writing since I was very young. If we want to go way back, I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and I grew up in a street in West Belfast that was like the last place in West Belfast where Protestant Catholics lived together, quite amiably. We all knew each other, and it was a very nice place. But we were sandwiched in between a very troubled Protestant community and a very troubled Catholic community, and so we were caught in between, and a lot of pretty horrible things happened, as you can imagine. And that to me, it was a very, very difficult growing up. And that, I was like a bookish, sensitive boy. I still am, although I'm just bigger and fatter. And you know, there was a lot going on, and in school, in my primary school, we one of my fellow pupils was hurt in a bomb. You know, he had his arm blown off and half his face removed.
Wow.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not even funny, but it's like that's nerves. That's just nerves. He was in that kind of, you know, screwed a lot of us up really in a way. And so, and our form teacher said, look, just write about it and try and understand it and try and empathize, and you know, which is what we did. And you know, and that was a big turning point for me in terms of, you know, empathizing and kind of understanding that situation. So that to me was when I sort of got the writing bug. And I did, you know, I was just a hobbyist writer for really until a few years ago. You know, I always wanted to be a writer. In fact, I went into writing as in my career. I worked for the past 30 years and as a copywriter, as a technical writer, as a web writer, all sorts of things. And always in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to write books. And I'm a voracious reader like you guys, and like all writers, you know, you have to be. So, and I found myself in a position where I was able to do a master's in creative writing, despite not even having a degree of any sort. You know, I still was able to take this, do this master's because I had a body of work already from my career. And at the end of that, you know, during that period, I had, you know, generally at the end of a master's, you know, if you're doing creative writing, they say you know, you have to, you know, it's a book, you have to write a book, 70,000 words, whatever. You know? And I had no idea what I was going to write. And all my fellow students were all like, they're all like, full of themselves in terms of, you know, I know what I'm writing now. This is amazing. I'm like, oh, God. And my our professor, you know, he chased me down one day, at the very last moment, said, "You need to figure out what you're writing. Come on." And so I just went off and wrote this book. I'm just going to write this young adult book. So I had this idea for an urban fantasy novel. A spy thriller set during the Second World War, which is a little, you know, it's kind of verging into Indiana Jones adventure territory, and so it's like a, but with a sort of very hint of supernatural, and I wrote that as a book called Sleeper, and I rewrote it after the masters, and I took it out to a few places. It was rejected by everybody, obviously. And then eventually got picked up, which really surprised me because I never, you know, because, you know, when you go through this whole process of writing and submitting, it's, you know, after a while it becomes just practice rather than hoping to be published. And you know, I never planned to be a young adult writer. You know, that was never my thing. I'd always written crime before this, but then I just ended up being or picked up as a young adult writer, and that's so yeah.
Was that because, David, when you were doing your masters, were you given like a really clear brief of what your masters like final piece had to look like, and did that sort of like persuade you in a certain direction, and is that why you found YA instead of crime?
No, you're given no brief. You have to decide what it is you're going to write. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. I could have written women's fiction, or I could have written horror or steampunk or whatever, you know, a fairy story, you know, but it had to be pretty much around about 70,000 words. It doesn't have to be in a complete novel. Actually, I think the minimum is, think about it, it's about 35,000 words of a novel, you know, with the, you submit it with what's going to happen later. So you don't need to submit a full novel, but I submitted a full novel, as did, because I knew, because all my fellow students were doing the same, and I'm very competitive. They're having to do the same, so it kind of broke me almost. But it was a really, you know, because I was also working full time and doing this masters, but it was a really good way for me to learn the whole discipline of writing and applying myself and taking that time out to write. And of course, writing is hard work, as you guys know. You have to apply yourself, you have to put the hours in, and that's what it's about.
Do you think that for someone who hasn't ever delved into the world of, say, creative writing or done any courses in that respect, do you think they can get along as an author without doing that? Or do you think it's something that's someone that's new in the game should certainly look into?
I don't think creative writing courses are necessary. I think they are for some people, but not for everybody. I think what's more useful, and I say this from someone who many years was unpublished and was doing courses, but also was attending writing groups and talking to people up of the same level who were also trying to get published. The most useful thing I found, personally speaking, was to join a writing group of people like you, and you basically critique each other's work, because you learn so much more about your own work and about the mistakes that other people make than you can do by going to a creative writing course. A master's is brilliant to do. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know people, they can slag off masters and creative writing masters and creative writing courses, but if you get the right one, it's a really brilliant thing, because suddenly you're in a place with other writers like you, and you've got something in common, and you have a lot to talk about, and you share ideas, and it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. But at a writing group where you pay nothing, other than you have a community that you create, and you critique, and you read books, and you read each other's work, and you talk about form, you talk about characterization, you talk about plot, story, etc. That, in my view, is more valuable than paying out large amounts of money for a course.
Absolutely. Sorry, is this Lina? How do you say that, Chris? I don't know. She says, share the wine I'm editing. But more serious note, she said, I've always wanted to join a writing group, but I have social anxiety and I'm an introvert or introverted. So I'm sure these days that there must be some sort of way of writing groups forming online. If anyone knows, please reach out and let that person know. But do you guys know anything in that respect?
I mean, I think most writers are introverts, aren't they? So I think the comfort that you probably get there is that you're probably joining people that are very much like yourselves in terms of the social anxiety aspect is obviously an aspect that if you are with like-minded people, like David said before, you'll probably find that diminishes quite quickly because you feel more comfortable around those like-minded people. So I'd say to, be brave and give it a shot.
Excellent.
So, Chris, I think, sorry, I just pick up on that point. I think Chris is absolutely right, and I think if you're going to write, clearly you're going to want your writing to be read. And you have to be brave, and you have to be in a position where you're going to submit to people and then hear what they say about it. And this is something, whether you're published or unpublished, it's something everyone goes through, and everyone is nervous about. When The Art of Death went out, I was absolutely kicking myself, and I didn't know. I personally didn't think it was a very good book, and I think I have set very high expectations for myself, and I'm too close to my work sometimes, as indeed most people are, and so I don't really have a proper view of it. And then when it goes out there and people say, "Oh, I really enjoyed this. This is wonderful," I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay." Really nice. And it really takes me by surprise, because always when I look at it, I'm thinking, "Well, that could have been better. This could have been better." And but you being introverted is one thing. Doing these things virtually. I think you will get much more out of it if you're in a trusted environment where you are with people, in a one-to-one basis, or 1-to-4 basis. It has to be. I would say go to a group, because I've gone to a few, and then just never gone back, and it's you just got to find, and Brighton, for example, there's tons of them. There's tons of writers in Brighton, and published and unpublished, and there's a massive community here of people who are creative and who want to write and do all sorts of things. It's the same in London, and I'm saying in nearly all cities, and everywhere you go, you'll find people that are writing, and just look for them and just make a connection. But I think try them virtually. But thing is, sometimes virtually, people can be a bit more blunt with their feedback than they can if you're on a one-to-one basis. So I would be wary of that.
Certainly.
Yeah. So David, what's your writing process like then, in terms of when you're on your masters? How was it then, and has that changed to now? And how long did it take you to write The Art of Death? How was that? What was that process like? So there's 3 questions in there.
Yeah. During my masters, it was really tough going, because I was doing my full-time job, but then I was having to apply academic thinking to how the whole process of writing and about structure and character and all that. And so you have to read novels, break them down, and then write about them, like so did it this way, and whatever. And I'm like, oh God, really? This is, and then you have to write something creative, like something like a story. And so it's like, it was really, really tough, but I loved it. I'm not saying I really enjoyed it. And it's, my process then was to get as many hours in as I could. So I would be working pretty much as I am now. I would get up. So right now my alarm is set to go up at 6 a.m. every morning. I haul myself out of bed around about 7. I have some tea and cereal, and then I'm in here. This is in my office where I work. It's a little box room in my house, and then I do a couple of hours before I start my job, and then I work till about 6, finish at 7. I finish about 6, 8, then I'm back here, and I do another couple of hours, sometimes longer, depending. And that's, but I try to write 7 days a week. I'm on a deadline at the minute. The book 2 of The Art of Death, the sequel, is due at the end of April. I'm already way behind, so I need to I need to really put in the hours. So right now I'm doing 7 days a week, and I'm used to that. Quite normal. Doesn't mean I'm working like 8 hours. Right, I'm not. When I say 7 days, I might. So for tomorrow, example, Friday, I might do 4 hours, and on Sunday I might do another 4 hours.
I would definitely say that every single published author we've had on recently, no matter how successful or whether they've fairly new at being published, have always said they're extending their deadlines. And it may just be a trend in the published world, I'm not sure, but it's nothing that I'm certainly sure you're not alone in that. So looking back at what before you got published, how was that transition into the published world, and was it something you were aiming for, or did it kind of naturally occur?
Yeah, it was absolutely something I was aiming for, but it was quite unexpected. And so I was sending out to agents, and I was getting lots of rejections. And then I went to the London Book Fair and had an opportunity via Authorite. I don't know if you guys remember them or heard of them. They were around a few years ago, and I won a competition to meet with an agent. So he looked at my manuscript from my masters, and she was very interested in it. She was a brand new agent for David Hyam, and anyway, she said, "Oh, this is very interesting." So then she gave me loads of feedback, and then she invited me down to the David Hyam offices in Soho, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing! I'm going to get picked up." And anyway, she said, "This is what you want to do. You do this." So I then did her rewrites and then submitted to her again, and then she said, "It's not for me."
Oh no.
Oh, okay. So back to the drawing board then, and then I just I was attending festivals. This is what you do. You go to writing festivals, and you meet people, and you talk, and you listen to other writers. And was sitting in work one day, and there was an opportunity to go to the Winchester Run Festival. Just appeared on my Twitter stream, and then I noticed that it was the dates had expired, so to apply. So then I ended up phoning up, and they said, "Well, can I get on?" And she said no, and I said, "Oh, go on." Okay then. So,
oh, brilliant.
So she, and this is the thing: you just push and persevere. Go on, let me on. Go on. It's only like a day past, and she said, and I got on, and then that's where I met my agent, and he took on Sleeper, and then that's how it's happened, and I think this is come back to what I can't remember the name of the person I mentioned earlier. It is very, very important if you want to get published traditionally or anyway. You need to get out to these festivals, writing festivals, and meet people, and meet agents and meet publishers, because they like to see your face. They like to see you. They like to know that you're passionate, and they like to also know that you're not crazy. Because if you're, I'm not kidding you. If your name appears on their slush pile, they'll go, "Oh yeah, I remember you from." So yeah, and I quite liked you. You were quite nice. You bought me a drink. Whatever. I'm going to read your manuscript, and I know a couple of writers this has happened to, who are now very, really prolific writers, just on the fact that they met people and just kept at it.
Sorry, I was going to say, David, how is it working to a deadline now? Because obviously you might not have had one before to such an extreme extent as April, especially if you're a bit far behind as what you want it to be. So how do you deal with that pressure now that you've got as a writer?
It's I don't want to moan about how awful it is during the pandemic, but it is awful. And but I'm not going through anything worse than anyone else is. But I am. It is a struggle at the minute. A struggle to focus. I'm working on. Obviously, I work full time, but also I'm trying to get through all the various crises I go through with the second book, and it's I've written half of it. Now I'm changing a lot of it because it's just not working for me. And in fact, I went through exactly the same process in my second book for the Sleeper series. I wrote 30,000 words of that. And I thought, no, this is not where I want to go. So I tried the whole lot. I couldn't even reuse any of it, and rewrote the whole book from scratch. And which was the best thing I could have done, because although neither of those books sold particularly well, they both were critically acclaimed by people who read them, which is not very many people.
So David, when you decided on crime for your next book, and you were like, right, I'm going to write a crime novel. How did you approach that? Because obviously crime is one of those genres that we all know and love, and I do in particular. And you've got a set characters already. Like writing crime, you kind of already know what to expect in certain aspects, with the detective, and then the twist normally comes in with the serial killer. Like, can I make the serial killer really interesting? Can I put a new spin on that? So how did you approach writing a crime novel, and what advice would you give somebody who was looking to do it themselves?
That's a really good question. And I didn't think of any of that at all. And I think that's the best thing you can do, is just do not even think about what other people do, or just do your own thing. What I knew about this book is that although people call it a police procedural, I don't really read police procedurals. I'm not against them or anything like that. When people say police procedural, I'm thinking, oh my god, I'm going to read a very technical crime book investigating and going through all the procedure of police, and I'm just like, it makes me want to run to the hills almost. So mine, it's two detectives, but the procedural part of it is like very thin. I wrote instinctively. I mean, I watch a lot of detective shows, and I love detective shows. I do, and I do read detective fiction. I absolutely do. I love crime and I love thrillers, but the procedural part of it was very light, and and so I didn't think about that at all. I just kind of wrote what I wanted to write, and that was something that was high concept, and the fact that I have a killer who is an artist who is using social media to catfish his victims, and then rather than dispose of the body, he then displays his art. I mean, it's quite an ambitious book in some ways, and I didn't know if anyone was ever going to believe it or like it, but it's what I wanted to do, and it's and I think that's it. You're just going to do your own thing.
So do you have a set number of novels in mind? Because obviously you've talked about writing the sequel now. So have you got a set number? You like, I'm going to do 3 and that's me out, or are you just going to kind of write and see where it goes?
Well, I'm contracted to write a second, so I have to write that one. What happens after that, I don't know. I would love to write more, but I mean, if they bomb, it's that might not happen. And it's like we'll have to wait and see. But I think the signs are good. I mean, The Art of Death went straight into number 14 in the hardback fiction charts, which is huge. But I think really it comes down to the paperback. If that does very, very well, then that'll be the decider. So who knows?
I've seen a lot of support for The Art of Death in terms of like Waterstones and big bookstores stocking this book in massive supply. So how does that feel for you as an author in terms of, obviously they're putting their faith in your books that they will sell, and then obviously from your perspective, is it a case of, I've done my job, I've written a book, I don't care what happens now? Or are you one of these people that are a bit more anxious about, oh my God, they've bought a load of books, I hope they sell?
Waterstones haven't. I haven't had a lot of support from Waterstones. They bought a handful of books.
That's my poor researching skills. There's definitely.
Well, how would you know that? How would you know?
Yeah.
I know it because my publishers tell me. But it's my book is not really a Waterstones kind of book. Waterstones are very much they really push literary fiction and they push and support. My book is very commercial, and it's commercial crime. It's not the kind of thing that especially as a debut, that Waterstones will necessarily support. And of course, my publisher, they're not one of the big 5 publishers, so we don't have a big, they don't have a big influence necessarily with people like Waterstones.
Yeah, I'm going to clarify this because I remember seeing 2 images, and we had Abigail Dean on the show who wrote Girl A. And one half of this bookstore was her books, and it was literally like probably about 4 or 5 rows of her books. And then the other half was The Art of Death. Just the whole bookshelf was just your book. So if it wasn't Waterstones, shame on you, Waterstones, for not backing David's book. But there was definitely a bookstore out there that was backing you to the helm, saying The Art of Death definitely is what you should be reading this summer.
So, well, if it is Waterstones, I apologize. Who knows? It might well have been Waterstones, and I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this.
No, I think Chris needs to keep digging that hole out.
Yeah, it might not have been a Waterstones, but if it wasn't Waterstones, Waterstones need to book their ideas.
It probably was Waterstones. Yeah.
There's definitely somewhere out there back in.
Well, do you know what? Either way, I think that you mentioned how the story maybe was a bit out there in terms of the sort of the creativity, and I think it certainly fits the times. And shows like Netflix shows and even film production at the moment love those sort of concepts. So I think it's certainly worth a shout, and the effort that you're putting into it. So I don't see why it wouldn't go down very well, especially the sequel coming up as well. So, all exciting.
So David, with the idea of art being involved in murder, how did that come about? Because obviously that's not something that I've necessarily read before. I mean, I've read books where serial killers have displayed their victims in certain ways. A lot of references sometimes to the Bible, different imagery and stuff like that. That seems to be quite a popular one. But as a murderer creating art out of his victims, that's something that's I've never really heard of before. So how did you get that idea?
That's a very good question. Another one. So,
Ka-ching.
Well, there is a really great Spanish horror movie from the 70s called La Cabina. I don't know if you know it.
No.
And basically it's set in this little community where all of a sudden this truck drives into the community and drops in a telephone box.
Wow.
And this man is going to work. He drops his son off at the bus. The son goes off to school. And before he goes off to work, he says, I'll just go and make a call. So he walks into the telephone box, and the door shuts behind him. He tries to make a call, but he can't. Then he tries to get out of the box, but he can't. And he's pushing at the door. He can't. And then for the rest of the day, the entire community tries to free him from this telephone box. And no one can. The local strongman, there's a local strong, it's Spain. They have a local strong comes and tries
to characters, yeah.
Yeah. Try to free him, but they can't. And the fire brigade come, but they can't. All the neighbors try, but they can't. Mm. They all get bored in the end and go off and they have their lunch and their dinner. And so he's left there. Then his son comes home, sees him, and the family, they're like, Dad, what's going on? He's, I don't know. And anyway, they all go, we have to eat now. And so he's just, totally distraught. And then dusk comes and the evening comes, and then the truck returns, and everyone is gone, and the truck just comes out, lifts the phone box up and puts it onto the back of the truck, and then drives off into the distance. My partner told me a story because it just frightened the life out of him when he was a child, and I watched this recently. You can watch it now on Vivo for free. Despite being early 70s, it's still terrifying, and it looks dated, but it's still very effective. I won't tell you the end. You can figure that out for yourselves. No spoilers. But it's about 30-40 minutes, and it's really well worth watching.
I will watch that.
Yeah, because I know, Chris, you like your horror movies that you.
He does.
Scary
he's into
movies.
that.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of. So to me, that was like, okay, there's something in this, and and of course with a bit of a Damien Hirst influence, that became, also the key to this book is, it's very much about social media and how easy it is to catfish people and to profile them, and then to but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted the whole art aspect of it to to give it that extra something.
So, David, as someone who's now in the public eye, have you ever had any sort of strange experiences on social media that may have influenced you to write about the complications involved in social media?
No, I haven't. Although I did open up my Twitter messages today or yesterday for a competition, and then someone called Becky tweeted me, "Go, hey, Hanson." She's got about 2 followers.
That's a genuine person, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was catfishing me, and so I quickly closed my messages.
I win a Just Eat voucher, £50 worth every week. I don't know what I'm doing right, but I keep winning them.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, let's get the questions in, staple questions, because we're 10 minutes over time of the halfway point, and we need to get this into. Go on.
Yeah, the staple writing community chat show questions we've got is, the first one is, if you could take any fictional character, and we always say have a crack at it, but I mean, I think you'll understand that being Irish, sorry, because when we ask American authors, they're like, have a crack. That means something completely different. But if you could take that character and make them your own, which character would you pick and why?
Make them into my book.
So you could write them into your novel. You could write a completely different. You could take them in their own series and write a different story within it. It's entirely up to you.
Yes, it's a really. I hate to use this person as my my answer, but I love her, and I hate the fact that people might compare my books to Thomas Harris's, but I'm nowhere near his greatness. But I think probably Clarice Starling, who I think we could see a lot more of her as Clarice Starling, FBI agent, serial killer, finder, and although I love Silence of the Lambs books and Hannibal, I think is a brilliant book too. I'd like to have seen more of her in that kind of environment of clean killers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, Thomas Harris seems to be. He comes up quite a lot. Like I'm just interested to ask you, from a reader's perspective, how you feel about his books in terms of, obviously he wrote 4 and then he didn't write anything for ages, and then he brought another one out. And like you said, he could have explored that character a little bit more, perhaps. So yeah, I'm just interested from a reader's perspective what you thought about Thomas Harris's books.
I love his books. He's a phenomenal writer, and his imagination is fantastic. And he is someone who's not afraid to push boundaries. I don't know if anyone knows the ending to Hannibal. I mean, it's the opposite to the ending of the movie. So, and that was an incredibly brave thing to do, and a cowardly thing to do by Hollywood, to like flip the ending and do like a really stupid ending for that movie. I won't say it is, obviously, if anyone has not read it. But his recent book, I don't know if you're referring to that. I think Thomas Harris is. I'm not sure. I think he lost interest in writing. That's. I know his publisher in the UK, and although he didn't say that, I should say.
Yeah.
But
he did not say that. Totally from a reader's point of view.
Exclusive here. I
think it's been a long time since he's written anything, and I think he doesn't need to. And he has other things that are important to him now. So.
So the second part to that question would be, if you could take the ending of any book, I want to extend this to TV and film, why not? And change the ending to something, what would you change and why?
If I could change the ending to any book, Uh, if I could change any book, that's a difficult one.
It's a tricky one.
It's hard just thinking of books at this point normally. Because normally when we ask that question, people go, I can't remember any books.
Well, yeah. Yes. Can we come back to that one?
Yep.
I'll let
Yeah.
it take over. Yeah.
So we've got a bit of a morbid one now, which I hope you don't mind. But if you're on your deathbed, let's say you're just there and you're looking back at your writing career, what would you be happy with? What does success look like to you?
Success to me would be being able to earn a living from my writing. So I'd like to give up my day job, and I'm not necessarily interested in making a lot of money. I'd like to be comfortable, but I would just be able to like to have the time and the space to write what I want to write. Right now, I just feel I'm struggling for time all the time to do my best and to write something quality, and that's and that's a pain in the ass. So success to me would be being writing with a comfortable income, and able to write what I want to write.
Fantastic. Excellent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the new family member part of the show, which is where we introduce someone that followed us on Twitter recently that has a very small following, and we give them a bit of a boost through the people that listen or watch on the show, and we send them a GIF, and the person that's on the show as a guest, which is you, David, chooses that GIF. So is there a GIF or something that you really like that you want to send that person, and all that the audience can send that person?
A GIF or a gift?
Well, this has been queried before. A GIF, a GIF, which is an animated video thing on Twitter. Have a think on it, and we'll play a little intro video for it. So, new family member. Okay, I'll introduce them and we can have a quick think about it. So, Dane Banks, at Dane Banks 9 on Twitter. Writer, new to Twitter, so they're a new Twitter person. Debut novel in the works, which is fantastic. Hit me up, he says. And 59 followers, so not many followers at all. New to Twitter, is a writer writing their debut. So, Chris, have a little look for that person, and we will see if David's got a gift for us. What are you into, David? Is there something, TV shows or sports or anything like that?
There is a GIF where someone, which I really think is hilarious. So some guy with a big mustache, and he looks like this at the camera, and he does that, and then all these petals fling.
Excellent. So mustache man. I don't know.
I think I know. Yeah, I think I know which one is referring to.
Yeah, drop them a tweet.
Yeah.
Say welcome to the show, welcome to the family, whatever you want to say, and a lovely tweet with a mustache man throwing in the petals. Chris, have you found that GIF?
I found Dane Banks, I think.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him, right?
So
it always throws me what to write. Mustache man.
Mustache man. Yeah, what we'll do quickly is I'll quickly show, because this weird thing that I said on Twitter, that every 50 followers Twitter that we receive on Twitter will buy an ebook, we have chosen one for tonight. So I will share that image of in very shortly when I find it. We have picked a book to buy, and this is from someone who's often complied with our competitions.
Are we Ofcom?
Yeah.
You complied with the competition.
And it's Mr. Wibley and his book Ringer. I'm sure you've seen that around on Twitter. Thank you to you for entering. We have bought that book. That is the first 50 followers towards 7K. Job done. Keep sharing, keep tagging, and we'll get another one done in another 50 followers. Well done to you.
Just so you know, if you type in mustache man throwing petals, it doesn't come up. So
Oh, no way.
no.
Try happy birthday or
Happy birthday.
something like that. Because I think I sent it to a friend of mine on her birthday or something like that.
So while they're doing that, David, is there an author that you would recommend people to look into?
Oh yeah, I found him.
Oh, that's him. Yeah.
Oh yes, I do know that. Yeah.
Yes, he's quite popular. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of authors I love. One of my favorite authors is. So, are we talking about authors that no one's heard of?
It's completely up to you. I mean, why not? Yeah.
What have I got here? Oh yeah, so this fella here. Oh no, hang on, that's me. Well, you know, Mike Raven's books are very good in terms of crime. One of my favorite authors is Sarah Waters. She's just brilliant, phenomenal writer. You know, she wrote. Oh my God, my mind's gone blank.
We can get back to that if you like.
They're all here. Do you know what that is? That's having a very large glass of wine. And
you need to fill it back up.
And also science fiction. I love Pierce Brown. Stephen King. Did I say Stephen King? Thomas Harris. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Right, let's have a couple of...
we talk about M.W. Craven, or Mike Craven, to his friends, and he's actually got a quote on the back of your book. So how did it feel being a fan of his and then having him read your own work? And
I'm not really a fan of his. I hate him. And,
so I'll just read it for people.
Yes,
sorry. Yeah, it says layered, twisty, and so deliciously dark, which I think is a brilliant quote from him as well. And obviously, if you've read his work and you're familiar with it, he's very dark. So for him to say that is a huge advocate of the book.
It is, and I'm really grateful for him for saying that. And he's a great guy, Mike. I've met him a few times. And he is a piss-taking bastard. Have you had him on this show?
No.
Do you know what? I asked him and he said yes, and then I messaged him and we didn't follow up. It's both of our faults because he was like, "Yeah, I can do this date," and I was like, "Oh, we've got someone that time," and yeah, it just went off on that sort of tangent. But we will get him on because I've read the podcast show and stuff like that. Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Just on the point of that fabulous looking book with the fabulous reviews on the back of it, guys, we'll give that copy away that Chris Hooley's holding in his hands right now, and we keep going on this random theme of guessing the pet's name. And David does indeed have a dog. You have a couple of dogs, right?
Yes, I've got a Labrador, a chocolate Labrador. So if you can tell me his name, you're in the shot.
On Twitter, tag David and tag us, the Writing Community Chat Show on Twitter, with a name of a dog that you think that you can guess correctly. We will give that book away. Or if you're very quick, put it in the chat here, and if it's identified before the end of the show, we will send that to you as well. Right, let's have a couple of questions, quick questions from the community, and then we'll play the game to finish up because we are pushing on in this show. Are you a fan of Twilight, David?
Twilight, the books or the movies?
Either.
I've never read the books. I have watched the movies, and
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've never read the books or watched the movies, but there is a question about Twilight for you. So,
okay.
It's from Anya. It says, if you had to pick Twilight characters for the following things, who would you choose? Marry, kill, expose their deepest secrets on social media?
If I had to pick Twilight characters, who would I choose?
Yeah.
marry, kill, expose the deep secrets. So I only know Bella.
This is a great question for people who are really not into Twilight.
Yeah. So Bella is the girl, isn't it? Isn't she? And
yeah.
So I would marry her, but I would also kill her and expose her deep secrets on social media because I don't know anyone else.
Well, I guess you could do all three to the same person, especially if you get
well, it happens. It does happen.
Great life insurance. Yeah. Yeah. So, Lyth said, I love that question. I guess that was a question for people who really love Twilight, which unfortunately wasn't us. How can people find the inspiration required to be creative, to write in this case, during a pandemic, as it is impossible to travel now to get inspiration from the outside world? That's a good question.
That's a very good question. And I mean, I guess you got to ask yourself: do you need inspiration from the outside world? And I think we all do, without question. We're kind of starved of interaction and doing other things. Whether it's going for a walk or going to the cinema, going to the theater, going to a gallery, wherever you find your inspiration. All those things, where you are kind of starved of. But I think, if you are, most writers are used to being very isolated. Anyway, I don't mean to generalize, but I would say you will find your way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, when I was writing my the sequel to my book in the Deep series, if someone had seen my Google history at that point, it would have looked insane. There was hotels in Quebec. There was women's wine glasses, champagne, jewelry, the perfumes, the whole thing. It was a proper setup, but it was for a reason. But that didn't mean I had to travel there to do it. So just use what you can.
Your wife was getting excited. She thought she was going to go back.
Oh, she was disappointed. But either way, so like I said,
you do make a very good point. I mean, we were watching a television show last week, a crime documentary. It was about forensics, and which is on at the minute. Actually, it's absolutely brilliant. And they were doing digital forensics, and they were looking at this guy. This guy was a digital forensic expert. Was going through the computer of this pervert. And it's just like, oh no, not pervert. It's somebody I think he was going to murder. He was. And actually, oh my god. So now I shouldn't have said this because he did actually murder his wife. And
I still have my computer. All right, it's still here.
Yeah, but this is the thing, and you should see my history of what is on there, and it would I would be number one if someone around here was murdered. I'd be number one suspect.
I guess that's a real issue for
how long
any
does it take
sort
for
of
a body to decompose?
Yeah,
those sort of things I'm doing.
I bet in the crime world, there's some seriously questionable history in a lot of the crime writers' histories on the internet.
Quite common.
So
yeah,
I bet it is. Who is it? Someone we had on the show, Chris, that said that someone gave them at a writing conference some like murder memorabilia.
I want to say Craig Robertson.
I think it might have been. Yeah, that was crazy. Have you ever been given anything, David, at like a writing conference or anything like that? That's a bit unusual.
No, nothing. No.
Your time will come, I'm sure.
Yeah,
some crazy murder art.
Yeah, definitely.
a horrible painting of someone murdered. Oh, this is for you. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Signed
anonymous.
Oh, brilliant! Right, so let's play the game, Chris. Right, because I'm interested to see if you can bounce back. After your last week's
bounce back ability is a word now thanks to Soccer AM, so we can use that. I have bounce back ability?
Indeed, we'll find out shortly. Okay, hang on, there's one more question for Mario, and I've got to ask that because it's Mario. He says, do you ever dream about your stories?
Oh, nice, good question.
Is that for me?
Yeah, why not?
Yes, it is. I absolutely do all the
Oh,
time. And when you're writing, you're absolutely absorbed and engrossed in that world. And I do dream about them, but also, when I'm out walking my dog, sometimes I sometimes call him. If I'm shouting, I go, Archer, like that, because I'm thinking, always in my story, Archer's called by her surname. And so I'm always thinking when I'm walking with my dog, I'm always thinking what's going on. So I've called my male dog Archer sometimes. When I'm talking to Alexa, I shouldn't. She's going to start talking now. Oh, she didn't hear me. Good. I say Archer sometimes, and and it's that those sort of things kind of carry into your life, and it's normal.
fantastic. So,
David,
go on.
Just one quick question, Chris. I was going to say, how do you switch off at that point from, obviously, the things you're writing about are really quite dark. How do you go from doing that to then sort of like just enjoying eating or whatever? You know what I mean? Switching your mindset, because I can imagine if you're dreaming about it and you're thinking about it a lot, you could quite easily go into sort of not a depressive state, but not a very good mental health environment, for the type of things that you're obviously writing about.
Well, I don't know if that's true, actually. I'll go to bed at night and I'll be thinking about where I am at a particular stage of the story and what I need to be thinking about when I get up the next morning, where I need to go. And that might be part of a murder, or might not be, might be something else. But it's, or I might be, in a situation where I'm in a dinner party or in a party or with friends in a pub, and I'm like this, just thinking, and I'm like, and always I'm half with it on what's going on, and then half thinking about what I'm writing, and that is not unusual. And I'm sure if you guys think about it, it's the same thing. You are never really I mean, there are times when you are detached and you get on with your normal life, but there are, I think, as writers, you're rarely detached from that, from the world that you're writing about.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any impact to mental health there. Certainly not for me. Anyway,
no, it's just like
maybe that's worrying.
Yeah, you get like method actors, don't you? So I don't know if it's the same with authors, isn't it? Like a method author would be very different, because obviously if you're acting out some of the things that are happening in this book, you'd be in trouble quite quickly. So
there's a story.
Maybe there's a new Banksy in the town.
Maybe.
I mean,
there is a story there, definitely.
Yeah, right. Let's play the game, Chris, because I'm anticipating.
Sorry about
the
that.
downfall.
Let's play it. Go on.
Let's get it done. I mean, hang on. You get lost in the idea of your world more or less. I do the same. Yeah, fantastic. So what we do in this game, we kind of mentioned it briefly off before we started. And if someone doesn't know, it's kind of like play your cards right, but we call it play your drafts right. And what we do is we start with a book and a year, and we have to work out if the next book is higher or lower. And there are 10 books. So whoever has the most right at the end wins the show. And Chris did lose last week. We'll say it again. So we'll just start over this one. This is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Was published September in 2006. So that's the starting book. And we are trying to find out if The Time Traveler's Wife was published before or after 2006. So in the comments, please drop us a comment. And you guys, take whenever you're ready, give us a year.
You're picking books that I've read, and it's going to kick me, this one. Really bad.
David, you just need to drop a
higher.
year in. Higher, yeah. You need to specify a year as well, okay?
Oh, okay.
Because it gets a bit close, this does.
Yeah, because I know when this came out, but it's a case of just remembering when.
That's kind of like my thought process. I knew it happened, just didn't know when.
So it was
Okay,
2006 that we had as the first book.
On the chat, someone's saying, Life saying before.
I'm going to say 2005.
Okay.
God, I don't know now.
Come on, Chris, give us an answer. We're gonna have to start putting a clock on this.
Yeah, good call.
Okay, I'm going to say 2002 then, just to have a little
Okay.
bit of a buffer.
Well, you're both wrong, because it was actually
What?
2013, which is way after 2006.
No way.
No,
According to Goodreads, my peoples.
I don't think that's right.
Well,
Really?
they are a source of information.
Goodreads, come on, sort your stuff out,
Yeah,
man.
I used to do these myself and then take the abuse myself in terms of getting things wrong, but I got things wrong way too often. So I now rely on Goodreads, which are supposed to be correct. So David actually wins that point because he was closest to the answer. Yeah. So well done, David.
The film was out in 2009.
Someone said 2003 on the chat. Hey, I copied and pasted all of these things.
Mate, the film was out in 2009. How did the film come out before the book?
All right, just because you lost the point, Chris, don't worry about it.
It says 2003. I should have won that point.
We're moving on. So
what? Oh, you rigged this.
This was copied and pasted from Goodreads.
Give him a point.
Anyway,
Give him a point.
2003, mate.
the movie was 2009, 2003.
Oh, God.
Okay. Do you want to give him the point, David? That's a bit too sportsmanship, isn't it?
If the film came out in 2009, how could the book come out in 2013?
Do you know what? I'll give that one a draw. I'll give you a draw for that one.
Do you know what?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 2013. It must be a republished version that they
It could
mentioned.
be. It could be.
That will be. I'll tell you what that'll be. That'll be the last published version.
They do both get a point. There you go.
Yeah,
so,
that'll do.
Next one. So we're looking for, from 2013, 1,000 Splendid Suns, higher or lower than 2013?
Higher. And I will say that is 2015.
Okay.
I have that book here.
For entertainment purposes, I'm going to say 2014.
Okay. Well, someone best be checking Goodreads again, because that was 2007 by all accounts.
Well,
Which gives who the point?
Let me just check that.
Go on, have a look. Is it visible?
yeah, say first published.
2007, yes, you're right.
Oh, there you go. Oh, thank you, Goodreads. Save me the
that.
shame. Save me the shame. Higher, I want to read that, someone said, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. So, okay, the next one from 2007, we're looking for The Life of Pi. Higher or lower than 2007? And we're currently 1-1.
No, we're 2-1,
No,
mate.
2-1. Apologies. I'm trying hard here.
I'm going to say higher. I'm going to say 2010.
2010. Okay.
And I'm going to say higher also. Higher than what year? 2007?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, well, I'll go lower. 2006.
Okay. Well, you would be correct in going lower because it is in fact 2006.
Oh, that must be 2 points. 2 points for the exact. And I was actually thinking August. No.
Wow, you should have said that. I would have given you 2 points. It's 2-2, Chris. It's pressure's on. Okay, so 2006 we are at with Life of Pi, and now we are looking for The Girl Who Played with Fire. Falls to silence in the chat. I don't know. Is the answer to that?
Yeah, girl with the dragon tattoo, and then the girl with
Oh yes,
fire.
I do know that.
Girl who kicked the hornet's nest. Okay.
So we were 2006. We're looking for higher or lower with The Girl Who Played with Fire.
Yes, we're in the middle of a
I'm
trilogy
going
there,
lower.
right?
I'm going.
What's that, David? Lower.
2001.
Okay.
I'm going to say 2004.
Well, this might be surprising. That the answer, according to Goodreads, is 2009.
Ooh.
Can the comment verification of people just figure that out? But they have been right so far, unless they were an addition, which means Chris gets the second point for that one, or the third point. So that's 3-2 currently. Okay, so 2009, and the next book we're looking for is Caroline by Neil Gaiman. There's some very blank faces going on at the moment.
I was just trying to remember when it was.
Well, this is why it's higher or lower, because it's like kind of easier, right? Than actually trying to...
I'm going to say just a year later. I'm going to say 2010.
Okay.
I'm going to say 2005.
2005. We have currently got a tie because it is in fact 2006. David is very close again. His knowledge is
extraordinary.
Very close. Yes, extraordinary. Excellent. Couple more. We're 3-3.
Have we got 4 left? Yeah.
Yeah. So we are in 2006, and this is one of those that we did recently. It's a tight one. So we're looking for No Country for Old Men. August 2006, we're looking for No Country for Old Men.
Again, the film's throwing me off there because that's been out for a while.
Yeah. Well, 2006 was quite a while ago now, Chris.
I'm going to say 2004.
Okay. Come on, Chrissy.
I think David's right. I'm going to say 2015. No, 2005. Sorry, just 2005. Just. But I think David's right.
Consider yourself very, very lucky, Chris, because 2006 was the answer, which gives you the point out of complete fluke. Complete fluke. So this is like the Rangers game from last night on telly, where it was like a goal apiece constantly. It's currently 4 points to 3, and we are now in 2006 looking for A Feast for Crows by George R.R. Martin, A Song of Ice and Fire. Is that before or after 2006?
I'm going to say it's after.
Oh, he's looking for the book, David, on his bookshelf.
See, I bought this. All these
I do
works.
have it here.
I bought them as a pack. But obviously, he did release them on their own. So I'm going to say, what were we on, 2006?
We were 2006, yes.
I'm going to say 2007.
Okay, David?
I'm going to go 2009.
Okay. This is getting very interesting. The answer is 2011, which means David is closer, and it is 4-4 with 2 to go. This is incredible. And in fact, we do have a final one for a tiebreaker if need be. So, in 2011, we are sat, and we are looking now for Vampires Do Exist by Stephen King.
What? I've never even heard of that.
Oh, surprising from you, Mr. Hooley.
I really haven't.
That's not the Stephen King, is it?
Yeah. He releases a lot of books, that you
if it's the Stephen King, his name's spelled wrong.
All right, well, someone's ripping him off. Goodreads, it's Stephen King. I'll look that up.
I've never heard of that book. Okay, I'm going to go lower, 1978.
Just throwing a random one.
Do you know what? I think you might be right, because I've Amazoned this book, and it's by Stephen King. It's got 1.5 star ratings after 4 ratings.
That's not the Stephen King.
That is not the Stephen King at all, is it?
The Stephen King is a PH. So
what year did you go for?
David said, did you say 78?
Well, I assumed it was.
You could change it now. It's a different Stephen King.
It was a typo, and it's not. So it's not. So
it's not the.
So it's a recent book then.
I'm going to say it's got 4 reviews. I'm going to say 2020. I'm say last year.
Okay, and I'll go 2019.
Okay. This is super fun because it was published in 2010, which means it is now 5 points to 4 with 1 to go. What a turnaround this is. And Chris is on the edge.
Good luck, Chris.
Yeah, good luck to you. So 2010, and apologies for dodgy Stephen King, but we're now moving into, from 2010, Marley and Me. Life and Love with the World's Worst Dog, which I've never read or seen the film of, and I will refuse to do so.
Wow.
From 2010, where are we going, Chris?
I'm going to go lower and go 2008.
Okay. And for the win, David?
I'm going to go 2009.
Okay. The answer is 2005, which means it's gone to a draw, and we are down to 1 more book for the win.
One for the win.
1 for the win.
Do you know, even if I don't win, I'm happy now that I didn't get. It wasn't a total whitewash, so.
Well, you didn't win. But anyway, let's go back. 2005, and now we're looking for the Air Affair by Jasper Ford.
Oh, right. This is well earlier than 2005, in my opinion.
This is not to lose now, Chris. You've got to be on the money.
I interviewed Jasper Ford.
I know you did.
On my own. Oh, God, this is so embarrassing. I forget the film.
David, have you got an answer?
So, and the year is what year are we on?
2005.
I'll go higher. I'll go 2006.
Okay. Come on,
I'm going to
Chris.
say 2003.
Okay. For the win, the answer of this book is 2003. Chris Hooley is on the money, exactly, and he redeems himself by a tiebreaker.
Well done, Chris.
You know, I got that because I remember reading it when it came out.
Don't lie, you guessed that.
I'm not. I was at university at the time, and I remember reading it.
Yeah, it took you 10 minutes to get there. I'm so sorry, David. I feel disappointed and deflated after that victory for Chris Hooley. So, I don't know.
It was deserved. It was a good fight to the finish.
It was.
A good fight. That was a Rocky and Apollo fight all the way.
Yeah, David's gone to Valhalla. He's fought well. Fantastic. David, thank you so much for joining us. And before we do go, when did you say we can expect book 2 of this series? And where can people find your work online?
So you can find The Art of Death at pretty much any online bookstores. Waterstones. Brilliant, lovely Waterstones.
We're definitely going to get some more in now.
Yeah, they're going to trash all my books now.
Yeah.
And bookshop.org, you know, if you want to support your local independents, and Amazon, you know, it's Amazon do same-day deliveries now, if anyone's interested. So all the usual places, really, you can buy it.
Ooh.
And in terms of the sequel will be, I'm writing it now. I'm due to deliver it at the end of my publisher, and it will be published next year. So I would say round about the same time next year, maybe slightly later. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, remember on Twitter, drop us a few names, dog names, even though it may have slipped out, and you can win that book and we will send it to you. And David, all we can say is thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and we will be jumping into that book at some point. It sounds fantastic. So thank you so much, and I hope you've had a good time, and thank you guys for tuning in.
It's been great. Thanks, Chris. You guys are wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing, and it is brilliant. Really, thank you so much.
Thank you
so much, David. Thank you,
everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on Wednesday, I believe, and keep an eye out for the things, promotions on Twitter. We're doing so much at the moment. It's fantastic. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you soon. If you listen on the podcast, be safe.
Come on, Chris, I'm waving forever.
Bye. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.